All right, plenty to do at the moment in the garage, so yeah, let's take a look at what we've got on the burner and get some of these cars and projects up and running. So we mechanically installed this brake line locker setup on our car a couple episodes ago in the race brake setup video. Now we're going to electronically install it. So just use some DCI shielding here over the wires and some heat shrink just to lock it in place. Crimp the wires with auto crimpers. I always use these days. They're just much easier to crimp off wires than using the old manual style ones. I run Deutsch connectors on basically everything just because they're just so easy and so fault free. They're easy to work with, easy to crimp on, and they don't come loose. They're not wibbly or wobbly like those sort of white sort of connectors you can get, and everything locks in place. And I haven't had a single electrical drama since I switched every single plug-in car that I use to do those with now, so they're great. Twin core wire is definitely a time saver, so I always like to use twin core, 3-core wire and decent stuff when I use it. So the last bit now, I've got to install the car side of it. So this car doesn't run a smart or anything, it's just budget setup, so it just runs relay blocks. Just getting an extra terminal for our relay block. So these are the style I use, and yeah, very easy to use, very cheap. I think they're about $5 or $6 each or something. So this is the biggest pain in the rear, but I've only got one set of crimpers. These are ratcheting style ones, so every time I've got to crimp a different terminal, be it a normal style one or like a spade one or something else, I've got to change the jaws over at the moment, so I need to get a second set of crimpers because it really does slow down productivity. So just use my Herculean strength to rip apart the dual core wire here, and yeah, again I've got a second set of ratcheting crimpers. These are new ones, these are the Erlen ones, work really well. If you haven't got a set of these, you can get them from Bunnings or something. They work bloody unbelievable. If you're going to wire up anything, use them for sure. So here we go. Got the old crimpers, and yeah, it takes all the mechanical work out, saves your hands. Same with the ratcheting action wire strippers as well. But as you can see, I've got to change a wire, and I've got to use a different style crimp now, so I've got to change the jaws out, which is a total pain, but whatever. I'll endeavour to get a new one, I think. So I've got a second set there, just so I can stop changing them. Here we go, all installed, ready to go on the car. Next step is I've got to find a spare output, which is easy enough. So can go with the blue, grey or yellow. Yellow's high current, but it doesn't matter switching a relay, so this one's spare. So yellow output 6 is us. I'll just look on the back of the plug on the ECU, which is this, and we are good to go. As you can see, there's only 3 yellow wires taken up, so we're good to go. Let's get it in there. Alright, so before you start working on the car, always make sure that if it's up on jack stands and not on a hoist like this, that it's rock solid, just like this one is. So like I said, rock solid, make sure it's on jack stands. Don't just prop up your car on jack, otherwise you're going to have a bad day. So alright, time to do a bolt check and then also check the braking system while we're at it. So we know in that last video we got the braking pressure working right, but time to check the calipers, the pads and the discs, make sure everything's all good there. Alright, so these are rear brakes from a Series 3 RX-7. The pads are actually used, this really late Series 3 RX-7 pads are actually used in FC and even FD. It's exactly the same pad and a whole heap of other Mazda vehicles from the mid-late 80s all the way up to the early sort of 2000s. So we'll whip this off now. Now normally it's a floating caliper type of thing, you'd be able to just undo the bolt, swing this part of the caliper out and change the pads, but the way this brake kit's set up and where the shock is, can't do it, so I've actually got to take the whole caliper off, which is a complete pain in the ass. Where are my ratcheting spanners where I need them? Alright, here we go. Oh, and she wants to go. Come back here, my friend. Alright. So I'll give a quick diagnosis here. What the f***? Alright, so what I can see here's a little bit troubling, because that to me looks like that is metal on metal. Even more troubling is these brake pads were brand new when I put them in, and there's a fair bit of meat left on that one, although the edges are all scuffed up, but this is there's nothing on this one, which tells me that this brake is like permanently dragging, or
the caliper mount is bent or something. There's whatever it is, there's something up the shit basically, so that's not great. Alright, so what I might do is I might take this off to give you a bit of a look at what's underneath there, because as far as I can see, what it looks like is this is actually dragging on the axle. This car's always been actually quite heavy to push, or felt quite heavy to push, and we were not sure why, because I assume the car's not overly heavy, but yeah, I'll whiz that off now and take a look. Alright, let's have a look. And yes, some of the wheel nuts have pushed back out. You can see there. Yeah, it looks like it's dragging on that for whatever reason. Almost looks like something got caught in there. Let me bolt this back up. Take a look. Tighten that up. That's how that sits. And there's a big gouge. Well, not a big gouge, it's just a rubbing mark all around here, but it's definitely cut in deep there. And yeah, it's a bit odd, to be honest. Alright, yeah, it's a bit weird. So I've got some new pads for it, ultra ceramic ones, so I don't really need it for just drag racing stuff, but why not? Why not? Why not? So in order to get the new pads in, because obviously these are self-adjusting brakes, we have to push the piston all the way back in. We use that brake cube tool to do that. So without further ado, we can now push these in here. Now one thing I can see is I've just fully tightened this rotor on, and I can see that the caliper doesn't really want to go in there on the bottom side. Definitely seems to be dragging, so I wonder if that's got something to do with my woes. Right, righty tighty, lefty loosey. I believe how many times I still use that thing. This is yeah, this is pretty amazing actually. So these pads were brand new when I put them in the car, and think about a drag car, how often using the rear brakes or brakes full stop. It's not a hate, but what the hell? This car's probably done 35 passes and about 20 dyno pulls. There's nothing left on that. And this one, oh, it's got a fair bit left on it, but it's sort of delaminating up the top as well. And give you an idea of how thick they should be, here are the Protex. They're these ultra ceramic or whatever ones. You can see the thickness there. So I'll get them side by side. Yeah, sure, there's some wear on that one. That one's fine, but look at that. There's literally no pad material left. That's pretty extraordinary, to be honest. I'm a bit of a loss as to how that's happened, but yeah, I always knew that something's up there. So whatever. This car only has to run about 1 or 2 more times at the strip, and then it's gone. We move on to the next project. Replace it with these and see how we go. Right, there's something else that's ultra important when before we go racing is a bolt check on the car. So we'll torque some bolts and then yeah, then move on to the next part. Right, so we'll go over some of the fluids we run in our projectredline 626. Now I can see the line up here. One thing is pretty easy to pick. It's all Penrite, and yes, they are a supporter of the fullBOOST YouTube channel and our MIDI business, but we were actually running Penrite for many, many years before they jumped on board with us anyway. So regardless of any sort of support we get from Penrite, we were always running this stuff in our cars for many years and have had absolutely phenomenal results with it, so why change anything? So first up, we have the race coolant inhibitor. Now, big one here, you'll see non-glycol base. So for you people going to racetracks, this is ultra important, because if your car does happen to spit a bit of water or coolant, this stuff is ultra easy to clean up on the track. Glycol, like your normal greens or whatever color, reds, you know, your normal style coolant, becomes ultra slippery, and it is really hard to clean up. It's actually easy to clean up oil off a track or fuel than it is coolant. You might think, oh, that's weird because it's water. Well, the glycol makes it slippery beyond all belief. So if you've got a race car and you're going to just race it, this is the coolant you should be running. You shouldn't run any other style coolant, because this is the one that if it overheats and spits a bit of water, you won't have everyone around the racetrack coming to find your pits to kick your head in because you've then put someone else's car on the wall. So that one is a must. Now the second is oil, engine oil. So this one won't be any surprise to anyone with a turbo rotary. I've been rating HPR 40 for over 20 years now in my turbo rotaries. I run HPR 30 in my natural aspirated rotaries, but I'm really keen to give this synthetic one a go, just to see what the difference is with oil contamination over time, because when you run really rich E85 or methanol, it really contaminates the oil, and some oils with the different properties and that can be different. So I just want to see if this is a bit better with that, because all it'll mean is maybe service intervals are a bit different. So that's the oil. Definitely recommend this to anyone with a turbo rotary. Definitely, if you've got a natural aspirated one, HPR 30 is the one you want to find. So brake fluid, just the 5.1, but it's compatible with .3 and .4 and whatever, so it pretty much yeah, ticks all the boxes. This one's really important for guys with turbo rotaries and natural aspirated rotaries that are using premix. So with alcohol-based fuels, ethanol, methanol, whatever, you need to run a castor oil. It won't mix with those. So if you run an ester-based oil, it will not mix in those alcohol-based fuels. So I run this. I get hardly any smoke. I run really you know, high ratios of this. So in my car, drag car with E85 and pretty high boost, I run, and it's also got the aftermarket power seals, apex seals, so they're a tiny bit harder on housings, so you need to keep them nice and lubricated and cool than the factory Mazda ones, for instance. So these, I would run this at around like 300-ish, a little bit over 300 mils per every 20 litres. If I was running methanol, I'd probably run this close to 350 or even 400 mil. For 98 octane street car, might run like 200 mil per 20 litres or something like that. If you've still got the oil metering pump, you might run 100 just as a preventative and a top up. So yeah, the race caster is definitely the one if you've gone rotary on ethanol fuels or alcohol based fuels. Next is the auto transord. So this is where whatever your transmission builder says to use, just use that. Don't be too smart and try and reinvent the wheel. So this has got just a Jacko 3-speed built by Keys, and he said to run just a good quality mineral Dextron 3, and that's what it is, Dextron 3 premium mineral oil. So we've had that, and we've had no problems with that so far, so that is what we'll keep on running. Gear oil, this is, well, you can see there it's 85-140, so that seems ultra thick, but this stuff sticks to the gears like nothing. So you know, when you've got that shock loading of the trans brake hitting really hard, you want to make sure that the oil is going to be there and ready to lubricate those surfaces. So this stuff is great for drag races. I really like this. So last part is what else sort of sits in our kit, and yeah, well, I don't have a cylinder head, but in case you get a pin in a radiator or something else happens or whatever, and you want to keep racing and get 1 or 2 more passes, I tell you what, this head gasket in a bottle, it works great. So you can see there it's full of copper and stuff, and yeah, if you've ever been at a racetrack and maybe you've slightly blown a gasket and it's, you know, not externally leaking, try chopping a bit of that in, and even if you've got a street car, at least you'll be able to probably get the car home and then repair it properly. So that stuff always sits in there, and if anything, it's for the F350 as much as it's for the rotary. So the old Clevo, they can run a bit hot, so that'll get us home towing the car in case. Always run some carb cleaner and some brake cleaner just in case I need to clean up some stuff. They're always these are 2 really high quality sprays, so they're great. Spark plugs I run, NJK R6725115. The R stands for resistor. 115 is 11.5 heat range, so they are, yeah, they're an ultra cold plug. NJK make great spark plugs. It's all I've ever really run in competition sort of high boost rotaries. If you've got an EFI car, definitely run the R. So a lot of people might run B9 EGVs or something like that. You should run like a BR9 EG instead. Really help it. Last but not least is the Deatschwerks Master Shop Injector O-ring kit. So nothing worse than getting to a racetrack, especially with ethanol fuels where they can dry out O-rings and you've got a bit of a leak. This Master kit has got the lubricant, the little tool to get the O-rings off, and all different size O-rings, base O-rings and everything. So this kit, if you're a drag racer with an EFI car and you don't have one of these, I tell you what, you need your head read. This kit could save an entire testing tune. Right now, I think guys out at Sydney are hiring the track for 1,100 Australian dollars for like 4 or 5 hours. You know, this little O-ring here might have cost you $1,100, or you had it there, swap it out, half an hour later you're racing again. So make sure you look up this, get onto this kit, because it will be a lifesaver in that situation. All right, let's hope the old Chariot kicks into life. Hasn't started in a while actually. Of course she does, hey? Good old Alice. Alright, so this from Raceworks is what we need to do our breather line on the trans. We'll get that done. I'm just going to run it off to one of these. The catch can in the boot's probably like 3mm aluminium, so I'm just going to tap it and run it. It's not a big line or under pressure or anything like that, just a breather, so that'll be fine. We'll run it off the top of the gearbox all the way back to the back in the boot where the catch can is, and run it to this, and that'll be good. All this stuff here is for the F truck, so almost finished this. Got a little inspection hole here. I'll open it up, and then that's where our fuel fill will be. So this is the top. We've just got to modify it, so this part of it is sort of just here, so I can unscrew it, fuel in, and yeah, that's about it. I think we're pretty much good to go in here after that, so it'd be good to get this going again. All right, let's whack this in the car now, and then I'll get started back on this thing, because as you can see, old 626 is there. While this isn't running, because we're in the middle of doing the EFI fuel injection part of the conversion, I can't get that out. So if we start racing in the next week or so, guess what? I am screwed. So I'll get this operational again so I can get it up there. Let's do it.
Alright, so here is our catch can currently. I think it's about 3 litres. I think it's just slightly under IHRA size, but whatever, we'll fix that later. 1/8 NPT tap and a 2164 drill bit will get the party started. It's only 3mm alloy, so bang straight through with the drill, it's no problems. And yeah, I'll just use some of this yellow Worth snot in a bottle to seal it, but NPT will just seal in a taper anyway. It's just a tiny thread and a tiny fitting, so it's no dramas. Just use the AN spanners as I normally do, because it's just easy. They just fit and they work, and yeah, it won't mess up my beautiful looking catch can here. So we'll whack that in. That's all good to go. And yeah, so I always use breather lines. I think this is 25mm PVC reinforced hose, and the clear hose just means you can easily identify if you've got a lot of oil in the lines, or you're breathing heavy. So that's why I always run that for the breather lines. You can just see I've just got silicone hose from Raceworks as well attached to the barb. This isn't under pressure, it's just burping any excess fluid, if there is any excess fluid coming from the trans. So cable tie will hold that line in place, no worries, and snip it off to keep it neat, and we are done. Still chipping away at the F350. Got a bit of a list here. Let's take a look at what we got. You think you're always a lot at the end of the tunnel, and you're pretty much almost done and dusted, and then you actually write a list like this and see just how many little 1% things are still to go. Now, so this list can look pretty big and intimidating. This is where a lot of people lose focus on their projects. So procrastination is the big evil elephant in the room when it comes to why most projects don't get done. It's not actually finances half the time. It's just, you know, people say it's time. However, not willing to get into the garage and do little bits here and there. So, you know, an hour a night can knock a majority of these off in no time. So, you know, O2 bung, I'll be able to knock that out in like 20 minutes. Throttle cable, I'll probably be able to do that in 20-25 minutes. Winch wiring, knock that out in half an hour. So in one night, I can do that. You know, this kind of stuff I'll do in the next night. This kind of stuff do in the next night. So really, after all this, spending an hour in the garage a night, over the course of a week, I'll get all this done. Whereas, you know, other people look at that and go, geez, when am I going to find time to do all that? Just get out in the garage,
even if it's 1 hour a night, and just do something, knock something out. Stop complaining about you never have any time. You do have time. You'll always have time to find to watch shows like this on YouTube and stuff, but get out in the garage, whack some music on your radio or whatever, and just enjoy yourself and get the project on the road. Stop complaining. And speaking about getting a project on the road, this one is actually turnkey now. So we've got the surge tank in there, we've got the fuel cell. I just made this because that's where the fuel filler will be. Still got to make that, but yeah, she's all systems go at the moment. So got the injectors in there, recycling our throttle body and that off the 626, our old setup. So you see the wiring's just sort of thrown up there at the moment, and there's some other wires on the back, and the coil's not mounted. This is the basis of what you do when you test stuff. The worst thing you can do when you're testing things is to, hook it all up and cable tie it around and make everything look nice and pretty before you start testing stuff, because I guarantee you just one thing can go wrong with one wire and you'll have to undo all that good work. So don't bother with making things look pretty until the last minute. Now 626 is it's ready to go now. Obviously all the brakes are all systems go, but more importantly we have these. Have a look at them. So these are my current wheels, and these are just a little bit bigger. So one of the big difference, obviously, they're still 15 inch. These are 15 inch as well. These are single beadlocks. These are junk cast wheels off some OEM car because the offset on this thing is terrible, so that's all I could get. And these are a hell of a lot lighter, although the tyres are a bit heavier. So the difference here is, the big difference is that they are a radial, and this is a slick tyre. So I might do a video actually in the difference between radials and cross plies or slicks, and the main differences between the two tyres. But not only that, maybe you can do a video on the differences in car setup. So how you would set this car up, and I'll just demonstrate. If you look at the suspension, I've got double adjustable shocks in this thing. It's a bit hard to do. Maybe I'll just set the camera here. Alright, if I set the camera there, it's hard to see on camera, but it squats. I think I've got the shocks actually tuned up a bit, but this car actually squats easily, and then it rebounds really, really slowly. But a radial car, you need to set up the opposite essentially. So if you have slicks on your car and then you bolt radials on with exactly the same setup, you're probably not going to get a huge benefit. So especially if it's a really fast car with a lot of sort of chassis tweaks and stuff like that. So I might do a video on that, on radial setup versus slick setup, and how you can get the best out of both. Got to add some stuff to this. So these are the sponsors of old Project Redline, or supporters, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, keen to get this out. It's pretty much done now. I have updated the multifunction button setup on the Fueltech, so now it's a single button. That single button can do, you just see that one there, right here. That single button, depending on what's set up on, or what stage the car is at, basically, will do 3 different things. So when the car is running, obviously, and just sitting idle in the burnout box, that button will do my line lock. So I press it, hold it down, and it will hold the line lock on, so I can do a burnout. And then just let it go, and it releases the line lock, and out you go. Now, when I'm on the trans brake, that button, because the trans brake's activated internally, it knows that trans brake's on. That becomes the staging or the bump creep factor. So I bring on one, I might creep into stage, the first light bulb on with the trans brake, activate trans brake. Then that button turns into not the line locker, but the bump function. Once I'm in stage and it validates launch, let go of the trans brake, that button then becomes the scramble boost. So I've got 3 functions on one button, which means that essentially frees up 2 inputs. So before I would have had 1 input for the bump staging, 1 input for my line lock, and 1 input for my scramble boost. Now I've just got 1 input, so all of a sudden save 2 inputs, which is really great. One of the great things at Fueltech is they just keep on advancing things. So it's not just a case you buy an ECU and whatever's on the paper when you buy it, that's what it is. These guys keep on updating things every single month. So best thing is they listen to the racers too. So this is an ECU built for drag racing predominantly, so it is very, very heavy on drag racing features, and they listen to the racers and they make changes accordingly. So that is fantastic. Got my hat line up here. I like wearing hats. I don't really wear hats out in public that much, but I wear them when I'm at racetracks or out in the garage, just if I've got, like, I don't know, just to keep welding sparks and that out of my hair basically. So got some of the supporters, banners and stuff up there. The Turbo Smart one here. Deatschwerks one there. I've got to get this remade because I've remade after I've relaunched the Mr. Parts website. I've got the new fancy Schmick logo, so I'll get this old made now. I think this was made ages ago. So update this one. These won't be the tyres, the exact tyres I'm running. I will be running a 275 radial, but these ones were just old junker ones that I could mock up the car with. So the guys down at MPW helped us out again with it. So thanks to the crew down there. They actually helped me with a set of old 28 9s as well to make sure they would fit when I had this set up. So thanks to the guys down at MPW again. And they, yeah, hopefully we can chuck these under the rear and see what we're going to have to do to make it fit. But yeah, I don't think they're for this car. They might be for something else. This is one big box. Must be a pretty big turbo that comes in this. What do you reckon it is? Eh? Give you a clue? Oh. Nah. Can't wait to strap this one on. Always run Garrett turbos because performance is ultra important. However, reliability is just as important. So yeah, for when I'm racing at the track, we don't race all day every day. It means when I'm at the racetrack, I want to make sure it goes hassle-free, and you want hassle-free performance. That name right there goes hand in hand with that. So always sort out turbos from Garrett, and we have never had a problem with any of them. They are phenomenal. GDX 42R on this thing, 76mm turbo, and this is a bit bigger. We're looking forward to running that in the future. So one of the biggest pains about a car like this, where the exhaust ends there and it has no mufflers, is obviously living in a residential area and not living in a, you know, not having a workshop in a industrial estate, is being able to start this car. So I rigged up a setup where there's a V-band on the end of my dump pipe. There's a V-band there. It goes to that transition, which was the thinnest of thin grade steel I could imagine. So it blew hole after hole, which is why there's a little bit of RTV just to cover up some of the holes, because who cares. But it runs from that into this giant truck muffler, into this giant truck muffler, and then it runs into some of these and then out up there. So it actually works really, really well. It's still, I mean, it's still a bloody rotary, so it's still awfully loud, but yeah, what it allows me to do is, after I've cleaned the injectors and stuff like that, put the injectors back in and just check to make sure everything's working, electronics are working. So check the trans brake, check bump, check all that stuff, make sure it's all working well, and then yeah, and then I know it's right to go, and then we can go racing, and I don't have to worry about checking that type of stuff at the track, or the fluids and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been brilliant. So I wonder if this side's got a slight leak. Look at that wrinkle. That is the difference between a radial and a slick right there, if you've ever seen it. That slick with the soft sidewall just bagging up there. So I reckon that's probably got about 4 PSI or something in it at the moment. We race on about 9 to 10, which is another reason why a lot of people go radials, because slick tyres with low PSI scare the shit out of some people, because they can they really do move around a fair bit. So as long as you're aware of that's what the car, or that's how the car's going to react on slicks, you'll be fine. But a lot of people are going to be running fast times, like mid to low 9s and onwards. These cars can really move around a bit, and they move around even more depending on your size of your wheelbase. So yeah, all right. So seeing as it's basically running, might as well kick it in the guts, Barry. Turn on the key. Yes, 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 I hear you, fuel pump. That is the carter making all kinds of noise. Not sure how many 1976 F350s have got push button start, but this one does. She sounds a little bit rowdy. Definitely got a bit of a cam in it, but yeah. I don't have a tune-up in it yet because that is literally the second time I pressed the start button since it's been an EFI. She's a little bit rich. Alright, so you'll see the F350 on full boost very shortly, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, where yeah, I think a million people have seen everything on YouTube with people just plugging in wires in an ECU and touching a few keys on the keyboard and going, look at that, we've finished all this, isn't this great? But what's the true cost of EFI really is probably a question that's not really answered that in depth, so that's what we'll, I think that's what we'll go into there. We'll really dive deep into the actual nuts and bolts cost of converting a car to EFI, all the components you need and where they go and where to use, how to use them, all that kind of stuff. So we'll knock that out in the next couple of weeks because it's running now, which was the big number one hurdle of, I guess, of finishing it. So it's pretty much done. I don't need to really do a lot of the things on this list to finish that video. So we'll get that out hopefully a couple of weeks. You'll see, see that on full boost. Then, yeah, hopefully in about 2 months' time, the project that I keep on referencing, I can't show you, we can maybe drop that then. We're just waiting for some components that take a long time to make, essentially, before they're here, before we start. So originally before, obviously, isolation and all that kind of jazz, we were hoping to have it out on track by June. Yeah, and obviously it's fair spanner to throw into works with everything there. So we'll keep on keeping on. We'll do what we can, but yeah, I hope to do 2 videos a week going forward. I'll do a video like the car culture one you would have seen earlier this week. Hopefully you've seen it. If not, go back and watch it. And yeah, I hope to do a video in that sort of theme, not of car culture, but a lot of different themes every week. And then I want to do a video, either a tech video or a video like this, sort of a vlog format, more an easygoing sort of video and an update on our cars and where we're at and what we're doing once a week as well. So if we can get 2 videos a week going forward for as long as I can do it, it's great. It's yeah, hard to do stuff, but for me, I obviously work a day job, and yeah, I've got family, got a small business to run as well, and I've got cars of my own to build, cars for customers and engines and stuff like that. So do this stuff when I can, but yeah, the biggest thing is the support from everyone. So subscribing helps a lot, and yeah, sharing it with your friends and that. So clicking the copy link, sharing on Facebook and things like that, for tell your mates to watch. That'll really help out a lot. So all right, until next episode, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.